Welcome back, and today's session we're going to go through more of a leg flow. So it's a combination of Pilates and yoga moves where we are stretching and strengthening through the legs and the hips, which is really important because as we get further into pregnancy, the extra weight that baby creates, we want that pelvis to be nice and strong. That's going to help strengthen up the muscles around the hips and the glutes, which can try and help reduce the risk of pelvic girdle pain. But more importantly as well, it's preparing our body, our strength in the legs for our upright and active birth positions. So I'm starting in a sitting position. I'm sat on a cushion, but you could have a cushion, a blanket, or a bolster. So if you want to get yourself comfortable now, again, you can be cross-legged, straddle, or in hero pose, whichever feels right for you. And then let's just again focus that mind and body into the room, into today's practice. So we were with the palms facing up, hands connected to baby, or one hand on heart and one hand on baby. And we're just going to take 5 full deep breaths in, our golden thread breath or our up breath. So in through the nose and out through the mouth. And with each inhale, I just want you to feel you're just drawing a little bit of energy into the body, a little bit of stillness. And as you exhale, just letting something go, releasing tension from top to bottom, around the head and face, the shoulders, the arms, the chest, the upper back, the lower back, pelvis, hips, thighs, calves, and feet. And then taking a lovely big inhale as we reach up, drawing that energy into the body as we start today's slightly stronger practice. And again, and out. One more. And out into our side bends again. So space in the side of the body, releasing out the muscles between the ribs and the top of the pelvis. This can help to give us more space in the legs and just getting that body starting to flow. Breathing into the side of the body as you create that stretch and space. Good. One more in each side. And switch. Perfect. Bringing the hands onto the thighs or the knees now and into those cauldron stirs. Rolling the hips, lifting the chest and heart center as we come forwards and rounding the spine as we come back. Just flowing with the breath. Good. And then let's change direction. Nice and steady. Waking up the hips and that lower back. Good. And then let's change that into those pelvic tilts. So as I exhale, I round the spine backwards, drawing bump in. And then as I inhale, I swoop forward, lifting the chest. Or that feeling of rolling back onto the tailbone and onto the pubic bone. And depending on size of bump, that range might feel a little bit more restricted the further into pregnancy you get. Good. One more here. Excellent. From there, setting the hands behind us, step the feet wider into those little windscreen wiper legs. Moving one way and then the other. And almost using these movements at the start of the session just to gauge how your body's feeling, because that can differ so much one day in pregnancy to another. So it's listening to the body. It's giving you those differences from front to back, right to left, just to help you decide how strong you might work or whether you just need to back off and stretch and relax a little bit more. Good. And then from there, perching still on your cushion or your blanket. Let's take the left leg out to the side, bending that right leg in, swooping the left arm down, and a nice big stretch up and over again, opening up the waist, starting to stretch through the inner thigh, and then release. We're going to keep that moving. Let's take an inhale as we can again, maybe reaching a little further down the leg. Exhale as we release, and again, one more, and relax. From there, the hands are coming forwards and keeping the chest lifted, and I'm just going to slowly walk the hands as far as I feel comfortable into a stretch, and then we're just going to point and flex as an add-on with this left foot. If that's giving you too strong a stretch, then just leave the foot nice and relaxed. But we're trying not to round in that upper body, we're keeping nice and lifted in the chest. So it's more of a tip straight at the hips rather than that slump. Good. And then walk the hands back up. And from here, we're just going to take the right hand to the right knee and turn towards that left leg. Nice big breath in. We're not twisting all the way around. We're just turning that chest towards the leg. And then let's pull the toes towards us to give us that hamstring stretch. And then release. Unwinding from that tailbone through to the neck. Rolling those shoulders through as we step that leg in and switch sides. Again, lengthening out through the leg. Nice and heavy through the hip. It doesn't matter how high or low that hip is. Reaching down with that right arm and over with the left. Inhaling into that left side of the body. Exhale as we release. Try and keep that spine nice and tall. And again, inhale. And exhale to release. One more. Perfect. And down. Same again, walking the hands forwards. Keep that chest lifted. Trying not to slump and round. Keep that body open. Each time you exhale, you might find you can walk the hands a little further forwards, and then add on, if you wish, to point and flex through the foot. Nice steady flow, upper body's relaxed, and just listening to your body. Good. Last one as we walk back up. Bringing the left hand to the left knee, right hand steps behind us and turning round. Again, I don't want to be arching and lifting into the chest. I'm just nice and long in that spine. Turning the chest over the foot, adding that toes to shin if you like. And just enjoy that little bit of a twist into the body. And then as we exhale, again unwinding like a spiral from that tailbone up to the head, and then let's step that second leg out. The width of your straddle is up to you. Again, if you've got any discomfort through the pubic bone, then you might want to come a little bit more parallel or do these exercises sitting in a chair. So I'm perched towards the front of my cushion rather than sat to the back of it. That helps me to give that lift in the spine. I can use the fingertips behind just to give me a bit more stretch as I point and flex. But again, if you feel quite slumped, then just sit something a little bit higher behind you that's going to help just to tilt that pelvis forwards and give you a little bit more comfort and space. Alternatively, you could do this just sitting against the wall. It doesn't matter if the knees have to be a little bit bent. Again, that depends on your mobility. We're going to take some sweeps now. So I'm turning the hip in, and as I turn in, I turn the foot and then I turn out to come back. And let's just keep changing sides. Again, depending on your mobility and bump will dictate how those feet, how far they'll turn in. But you should feel like you're working quite hard into the inner thigh. So this is challenging our hip flexor muscles and our spinal muscles to stay upright. So this is quite a strong stretch. But again, if you'd rather keep this more relaxed, prop your back against the wall and then keep the legs nice and heavy as you sweep along the floor. Good. But again, we shouldn't have any direct pubic bone pain. So anybody that's got pubic bone discomfort, bring that back to a comfortable position. But often pubic symphysis pain will be aggravated by these single leg movements. So that could be done opening and closing the legs at the same time. Good. And then from there, just slide that left leg in and bringing that left elbow to the inside, and a little bit like we were before, we're twisting round to our right. I'm just using this elbow just to push that stretch a little wider. Using that inhale to feel the lift up through the spine and the exhale as I twist. Good. Last breath in here. And then exhale, unwinding, releasing the leg. And sliding the other foot in. Again, elbow to the inside, hand to the outside, and turn the body. Inhaling as we lift and lengthen, but don't tilt. Exhale as you rotate. And then again, last breath in. On that exhale, rotating back to center, sliding the leg away, bringing the hands forwards. Take a nice big stretch up. And then let's exhale as we side bend. Again, try not to drop the arms. Keep the frame of the face. Inhale coming up. Exhale going the other way. If that's too strong, the hand could come down into that side bend. So it's a bit more supported. Let's take one more each way. And exhale to center. Inhale, tip. Exhale to center, bringing the hands down, and like we did at the start, let's just walk the hands a little bit further forwards, keeping the chest lifted, so I've hinged at the hips rather than slumped in that upper body. Still making space for bump. And a few breaths here, just feel that length through the spine. So again, I'm tilting and hinging versus slumping down into that posture. Last breath here. And then as we exhale, walk the hands back up, sliding the legs in. If you need to use your hands for support, that's fine. And then let's turn that round into 4-point kneeling. So from here, I've got the hands under the shoulders, hips under the knees, and I'm just going to sway the hips one way and then the other. And any of these moves in 4-point kneeling, you can just flow with whatever feels comfortable for you. If you're not happy on the hands due to wrist pain, carpal tunnel, you could come up onto the knuckles. Or you might have your cushion or bolster here where you could drop onto the forearms, or you could even have a chair or a birthing ball, especially if you're struggling with heartburn, and you could sway with the chest being a little bit more upright. And these natural hip sways, again, you'll often see women in labour using these hip sways just because they feel really comfortable. You're moving the pelvis around and creating space for baby to descend down into that birth canal. Let's take the hands a little further forwards now and start to circle around the mat. You can circle, sway, figure of 8, whatever feels natural to you. Again, just listening to that instinctive flow of the body. And here again, in anything in all fours, we've got gravity working to assist baby's natural position to try and allow the optimal fetal position. Naturally, we're strengthening the spine, holding the weight of baby. So just watch you've not collapsed into that bump. A few alligator wiggles here now. So I've got my knees nice and wide, and then I travel backwards, and as I do, I just shake the hips backwards and a little wiggle. Now apparently in the animal kingdom, this is how alligators birth their eggs. They just shuffle along and the egg pops out. So it would be lovely if that was the case for us. But again, that concept of just relaxing, releasing and opening those hips is trying to make that natural birthing process as comfortable as possible. Let's make one more alligator shuffle. Good. And then releasing through. From here, bringing the hips, the knees back underneath the hips. I'm going to step one leg out behind me now, tucking the toes under as I push back and forth through the calf to give me that calf stretch. Again, options to change the hand positions if being on all fours isn't comfortable for you. But I've got the chest lifted. Bump is gently drawing into the spine, because from here we're going to lift that left leg now. So I'm squeezing through the bottom, I'm pushing the heel away from you, so I'm not sagging, I'm lifting long. And if you feel you can, extend that opposite arm out in front into our superwoman or our superhero pose. Breathing in, feel the heel and the middle finger reach away from one another, and then on the exhale, release it down. Good. Step that leg in and let's switch sides. Taking that right foot behind us now, tucking the toes under and rocking back and forth. Lovely feeling of stretching through the calf, getting some blood flow to the ankles. Or you could hold it as a static stretch if that felt more natural for you. And then again from here, lifting the leg and keeping the toes pulling towards the shin, drawing up into bump and chest. And then I should feel like I can lift that left arm if you wish. Again, breathing in, reaching the fingertips away. Exhale, lengthen. And then step the feet back down. And let's move back into those hip sways again. If you feel you need a little bit more room for bump, just take the knees a bit wider. Swaying from side to side. I'm going to tuck the toes under now, and I'm taking my feet wider so they've come more in line with the knees now rather than beyond. And as I rock back and forth here, I've got to stretch through the ankles, the backs of the hip, but more importantly, the back of that pelvic floor. So we often work with the knees wide and the feet narrow, but taking the feet wide as well, you'll feel that space between your sit bones, or east and west if we're thinking about our pelvic floor diamond, is lovely and wide here. And that's again creating space through that birth canal. Good. From here, I'm going to walk the hands back into my yogi squats, and I can rock back and forth. If you don't like this full yogi squat, or particularly if you know you're breached, then just work your way up into standing now. But otherwise, as I rock from side to side, it doesn't matter if the heels don't touch the floor. I just want to try and keep that chest lifted. So again, I could have some blocks or my cushion here. And then I'm going to push down through the legs, bring the hands into prayer position and stretching up and through. Reaching the hands down and then just taking the feet to a comfortable position on the width of your mat. And then let's just carry on with those hip sways from side to side. So again, that natural instinct, I'm going to turn to face you, but you can stay facing the end of your mat or turn towards me now. That natural sway of the hips. Again, this is our active upright birthing position, but I'm just creating a little bit of space in those hips. And if that was my pelvis, it's rotating, it's turning, it's changing angles all the time. Let's change that into some pelvic tilts. So rocking the pelvis forwards and backwards. I've got the knees nice and soft here. I'm not locked in the knees. That prevents that pelvis from tilting. Good. Perfect. And then from here, reaching the right arm up, and let's side bend over to the left. Big breath into that right side of the body, and then exhale, flowing back to center. Taking the left arm up this time, and reaching over and through. Good. Taking both arms up this time, looking up towards the fingertips as we bring the hands to prayer position, drawing the hands down. Once you get to your wrist stretch, flip the palms down, soft through the knees. We're going to hinge at the hips, sweeping down and then dropping the bottom, lifting up through the chest and coming up through our chair pose. Releasing the arms down. And again, let's take that again up to the side, looking up as the hands come to prayer position, sinking down, hinging at the hips, turning the fingertips as they reach the belly button, and then swooping the bottom low, chest high, and coming up. Good. We're going to take one more round here. Perfect way to strengthen those legs. Nice big breach in, looking up, exhale, coming down. Turning the fingertips, hinging at the hips, and then swooping through our chair pose, trusting those legs as they come through and down. Releasing the arms, chin to chest, and this time just uncurl the spine down towards the floor. You can bend the knees or you can take more width in the hips if you feel you need it. And we're just going to sway the hips. If you needed the hands on the thighs instead, if that's more comfortable, that's fine. Again, you could have your blocks or maybe even a ball or a chair in front. And as I sweep side to side, I'm just releasing and opening up the lower back. So this is why it's really important to have the knees nice and bent. Again, we can feel really compressed through pregnancy in the lower back. And then from here, if we can, take the elbow to elbow, unless you're leaving the hands on the thighs, bending the knees a little more so we can drop the crown of the head through. And again, I'm just going to sway from side to side, feeling that heaviness through the pelvis, releasing the upper back. And then relaxing the hands, sliding them up the body as we uncurl that spine, one vertebrae at a time. Rolling the shoulders back, walking the feet to a comfortable position. And then here, let's just take a moment in our mountain pose. So knees are nice and soft. The pelvis is heavy, so I'm not slumped forwards, but I also don't want to feel like I'm gripping anything to find my posture. Centralizing that balance. You can close the eyes here if you need to, and just take a moment to feel that length up through the back of the body, the heaviness in the tailbone, like I've got a little pendulum weight hanging from the back of the pelvis. At this point, lift the toes up, stretch the feet as wide as you can, and then lay those feet down. So it's like we're drawing a triangle with our foot, with our big toe, little toe, and heel. And the wider and longer that triangle is, the more balanced our center of mass is. Good. Last full breath here. And out. Perfect. We're going to step our right foot forwards now and our left foot back. We're working into warrior one. So I want a little bit of width in the hips so I can walk the right foot to the back end of the mat. My left foot depends on your calf range and hip range, so that's pointing out almost like a 10-2 line, and my right foot's forwards. If you feel really tight in the heel, you could prop a blanket or a cushion underneath that back heel. But I want to try and work to turn the hips towards the front of the mat, whereas the further out this foot's turned, the more my hips want to follow. And then we're just going to lunge in and out of this front leg. The knee is traveling over the center of the toes, so try not to let it rock forwards. Good. And then if I visualize in headlights on my hips, they're pointing over the front end of the mat as we hold that lunge this time. Lengthening up through the arms, they're going to reach up if you can into prayer position, or if you feel a little tight in the shoulders or the chest, take a wider arm line. Looking up to the fingertips, or if you prefer, keep that gaze forwards. As we breathe in, we're feeling the heel on that back side move away from you as the fingertips reach up. The shoulders are soft. And then exhale, reaching the hands behind. We're going to lift that back heel now and then just rock back and forth almost into that calf stretch that we did before. And then if we can, push our weight forwards into this right leg, and we take a little balance in the hips. Again, those headlights are pointing forwards off the edge of my mat. From here, if you want to, you could extend those arms out in front towards Warrior Three. Bending that right knee this time just to step the legs back in. And again, let's just sway the hips from side to side. All done. So with that Warrior Three, if that balance onto one leg, particularly in third trimester, feels too strong, then leave the toes behind on the floor and then just tip that weight to the front leg. Let's take that on the other side now. So I'm going to step the right leg back. Again, the length of your stride is up to you. Left leg is pointing forwards. I can widen the stance, turning the right foot to the angle that feels comfortable for you, and the hips are forwards. A few lunges here, that limbering motion just to check our position. Visualizing that kneecap tracking over the second and third toe. So again, building up that strength in the leg with our standing postures. And then holding into that pose, reaching the arms up into prayer position or wider. Softening those shoulders down. Breathing into the pose. Anchoring down through that left heel. Good. Feeling the space between the pubic bone and the collarbone lengthening without hinging into the lower back. And then from there, sweeping the hands into the small of the back or the sides of the hips. Lifting that back heel to turn the foot square on. And then back and forth into our calf stretch. Keeping the load through this leg to keep strengthening through the hip. And then push that weight forwards, either leaving the toes down or hovering that leg. Again, try and keep those headlights pointing forwards versus rotating. Chest is long, hands can stay as they are, or they can reach forwards into our Warrior Three. Using that nice strong breath here to help us balance. And then bending that knee to step the foot forwards. And again, just sway those hips from side to side. And then taking the arms up into prayer position, hinging at the hips, soft in the knees, and then let's release it down. Again, taking the feet as wide as you need. From here, slide the hands up the shins, bending the knees a little bit to draw the shoulders back and find this flat line through the chest in half lift. Breath in, then outward breath, forward fold, just as far as comfortable. And again, half lift, sliding up. Exhale, releasing down. Last one. And then we're going to use that chair pose from before, bending the knees, dropping the bottom, lifting the chest, and reaching up and round. Good. From here, we're going to take a forward hinge exercise of pyramid pose or modified pyramid pose. Again, it's quite hard to stretch the hamstrings during pregnancy. So this is a nice way just to open up. So we're using the same foot stance as we did for warrior one. So the right foot's in front, back leg behind. And again, you can turn the foot out or you can have the foot forwards if you've got the mobility. We can use this as an active stretch where we're working into the strength of the hamstrings, or if you wanted to take this in a more passive, relaxed stretch at this point, then a chair or the wall in front of you to take some of the body weight is useful at this point. But the position is the same, whichever version we're going for. So hands on the hips or to the small of the back. We want a slightly shorter stance probably for this than we did with warrior, but headlights are pointing forwards. Using that hinge at the hips, so keeping the body long, I tip forwards and back. So again, we're limbering up. So the difference with this pose is that the legs are straight this time. And if I had my chair, or if I was doing this at the wall, the body weight would be supported by whatever's in front of me. So we're just taking an inhale as we tip. Exhale, coming back up. But you should get a big stretch through this front leg. Gently drawing bump into spine. So you can either stay dynamic with this, or on this next one, I'm going to hold in this posture now. Lifting that chest, so that heart center, if I had a torch on it shining beyond the end of my mat versus down. And it's a long line from the tailbone out through the back of the head. Pulling the shoulder blades and elbows back. Breathing here, nice and strong through that posture. Feel the kneecaps drawing up versus locking the knee. And again, the more flexible you feel in the hamstrings, the longer you could start to take this stance as you practice. Last breath in. On the outward breath, bend the knees. Push that weight through and step again back into our top of the mat position. Swaying those hips side to side. So really big hamstring stretch, sciatic nerve stretch, and that feeling of space across the back of the body. Let's take that on the other leg now. So stepping the right leg back, left leg forwards, adjusting the feet and the hips, and with the stance for balance as well if you need. Sending those headlights to the front end of your mat, and then again starting that hinge. Feeling like I'm pulling up, not locking. So again, those of you that have done quite a bit of yoga pre-pregnancy, there's always that temptation to push the knees backwards, but when we lock the joints, we lose a lot of the benefit of the stretch and the strength of the exercise. So as I'm pulling up and being more active in the muscles, I'm working harder in that posture. Again, I could have my chair or the wall in front of me to support that body weight. So either staying dynamic or holding that there now, gently drawing spine and baby in. Opening the chest and sending that heart line forwards off the front of your mat. Steady with the breath. Using that exhale to feel a little bit more grounded into the posture. Turning that right hip towards the front of the end of that mat. And whenever you need to come out of that posture, you can bend the left knee. Otherwise, let's take one more full breath in. And out as we bend the knee, step the weight forwards. And then turning towards the side end of your mat. Feet a little wider this time. And we're going to take some bigger hip circles. Again, same as we did in 4-point kneeling. Here, that pelvis is twisting and turning, making space for baby. So really useful as one of your upright active birth positions on your own, supported against the wall, or supported against your birth partner. Let's change that into a figure of 8 now. Sweeping round, getting those clicks and clunks out, and then change direction. Good. Feet are a little bit more turned out now, working into a few squats. So again, our squats are really useful for strengthening our legs to hold that extra weight of baby through our pregnancy, but to build us into those active birth positions and beyond. So as I squat, I'm pushing the knees out and my bottom back. So temptation is to sort of tuck underneath, but send the hips back like there's a chair behind you. The middle of that kneecap again is tracking over the second and third toe versus something here. So I really want to feel like I'm pushing and making as much space as I can. So you can make that stance narrower if that's more comfortable for you. We're going to add some arms with this. So we're going to inhale as we lift, exhale as we lower. And you can go as shallow or as deep into that squat, depending on how your body feels. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. If you wanted to add a bit of pelvic floor work here, I'm relaxed. And then I draw up onto the pelvic floor as I stand. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. 2 more. Inhale, lift. It gets the heart rate going. Exhale, lower. We're going to stay down on this next one. Bringing the hands towards the thighs. And then I'm just going to drop one elbow and shoulder inwards. And then switch. So a little rotation through the chest, one way and the other. Legs are going to start to burn here. So again, if you need to come out of that posture sooner, then listen to your body. Good. One more each way. And then from here, fold it forwards, have a little release off. Or again, if you need to come out of that wider stance, then work your way through that now. Hanging here, you could maybe walk the hands round one way or the other. It's definitely got my heart rate up. Don't know about yours. And then hands to center, softening those knees, roll that tailbone up. Restacking that spine, and then either stepping or toe heeling the feet back to a comfortable position. A few narrower hip sways. And then again, let's just take a moment in that mountain pose as we get our breath back. So nice and heavy through the tailbone, soft through those knees. Find that length in the spine. Eyes closed or eye lines softened. And just start to slow that breath down. Reconnecting with the ground. Imagine like you've got tree roots growing out of your feet as you exhale. Deepening and anchoring your balance. Giving you that sense of feeling grounded and supported. But light and relaxed at the same time. From here, chin to chest, let's slowly curl the body down towards the floor. Unpeeling the spine, working our way down into 4-point kneeling. And then I'm going to step the left leg out to the side of the mat. Again, if you've had enough in these wider stances, then you can do these stretches just in 4-point kneeling as well. From here, I'm just rocking back and forth into my right heel. And just easing and stretching out. So now this is a passive stretch. The pelvic floor is nice and relaxed. And then with the right hand down, I'm going to open up the left arm to the sky, turning into those hips, breathing into that stretch. Trying not to sink into that bottom arm, feel like it's pushing you away from the floor. And then bringing that hand back down. And with that left foot, a little bit like the rocks at the start, let's just rock that heel back and forth. Good, and then slowly stepping that leg back in. A few sways of the hips side to side before we take that stretch on the other leg. Again, if that wide stance doesn't feel right for you now, then you can just take hip sways and then that arm opening in this 4-point kneeling position. Otherwise, stepping the left leg out now, rocking back and forth into those hips, releasing the pelvic floor. And then left hand down, right hand opens up, pushing out of that left side to give you that lovely big hip stretch. And then folding the hand back down, rocking that heel if that feels right for you. Releasing all the way around those hip joints. And then stepping that leg back in. And then let's just take a moment down in child pose. Bringing that breath back down or swaying the hips if that feels right for you. And then let's just walk the body around to the left side, sinking back into that left hip now, right hip. Reaching the hands away so I've got that stretch through the right side of the body. And then slowly walk the hands the other way, over to the right. Sinking back into that left hip. Again, breathing into the left side of the body. And then releasing down. We're going to come down into side lion. I'm going to start on my right side. So pop in something underneath your head, whether that's blocks, cushions. And then if you feel like you need something underneath your bump, pop that in now. I've got the hips, knees and feet stacked. And I'm just sending the feet towards the back of the mat a little bit. I want to feel like I've created length in the hip here, so I'm not just sagging down into bump. So I like to use the hand just to push that away. I would take a few clams from here. Again, if you've got any pubic bone discomfort, then you can take it as a full leg lift rather than a rotation. Or alternatively, that still doesn't work, pop something between your knees and you can do a squeeze downwards as we do the opening. So from here on the exhale, I press the knee open, the heels stay together. So this should be working the back of the hip. Again, our glute muscles are really important for supporting the pelvis. But if you feel like you're getting all of that through here, as I said, the option is to just take a straight leg lift and lower. The main thing with clam is that we're avoiding rotating backwards off the pelvis. So keep those headlights pointing forwards and down. We've done quite a bit through the hips already, so this should start to feel quite tired quite quickly. If you feel like you want to challenge that a little bit further, you can lift both feet up and take a wider diamond. So that's our level 2 clam. So I'm just going to keep it at that lower level, or again, anyone with pubic discomfort, you're taking a squeeze into the pillow as you exhale rather than opening. 3 more. 2 and 1, and release. Give that a little thump out. You can now place something between the knees if you want to, or you could drop the leg forwards onto a pillow. And we're just going to take an arm opening from here. So I'm bringing the top hand to the back of the head. And as I inhale, I turn the elbow and chest open and then closing back. So finding that space in that upper back, through the mid back into the lower back. Again, try not to let the hips roll back with you. And let's just take 3 more here. Just allowing that lower body to be nice and steady and heavy. Last one. As we come back here, we can open that arm out into a full stretch if you feel comfortable, or just leave the hand on the head. And then release it back down. Good. You can either turn away now, or you can switch your block or your cushion the other way to finish on our left side. So I always like to do our side lying on the right first. So by the time you finish your set on the left, you can go straight into your relaxation on that left side. So again, popping under the head, the bump if you need anything, sending the feet towards the back of the mat so that we're open in that pelvic area. Headlights are down and that hip line's nice and long. So we've got our clam level 1 as an option, or that full hip, knee and foot lift.